Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm
Morgan.
I'm the chair of the commission. I want to thank you for your application and interest in serving the judiciary. So we have an application,
That's right. That's right.
Okay. You've appeared before us before. We do have some new members on our commission.
Sure.
So just reintroduce yourself and tell us about your qualifications for judicial office.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, I just want to thank all of you, and I hope you don't mind me walking back and forth a little short. I get back behind this podium. But so first and foremost, I just want to thank all of you and for the time and that you guys put into this process. I know you guys take away from your own practices, so thank you for that, and then for giving me the opportunity to interview in front of you. My name is Joanna. I am a senior counsel at the IRS Office of Chief Counsel under the U.S. Department of Treasury. Currently, that's my role. I had been in that role for, I guess, just about 6 years now. And so what I do there is I advise federal criminal special agents on complex white-collar crime investigations. That includes tax evasion, money laundering, violations of the Bank Secrecy Act. Like I said, I've been doing that for about 6 years. I'll issue them written legal advice, primarily written legal advice. It's more of an in-house counsel role, not litigating in that role. I have also served on our cyber cadre, so that's giving legal advice on artificial intelligence or cryptocurrency issues that might come up in our investigation. And I also serve on our privilege review team. And so I've handled a couple of whistleblower interviews, and I'll review those whistleblower interviews for any potentially privileged information. And so that's just kind of a swath array of what I do in my current role. But previously, I was prosecutor for 8 years, started right here in the 7th Judicial Circuit, courthouse, juvenile, and then I went over to Putnam. I did felony over there. I moved to the 12th Judicial Circuit because my husband and I got married. He lived down in St. Petersburg at the time. He was working for Raymond James in their headquarters, and so it was easier for me to move down there. My role as prosecutor, and I worked in the 12th Judicial Circuit. I did misdemeanor for about 3 months down there, and then felony for the remaining time. I was there for about 3 years. And then I came back up here as assistant statewide prosecutor. We had my daughter ready to come back up here. All my family's in this area. I grew up in this area in Putnam County. And so we were ready to be back up here, obviously, with a new baby in tow. And so moved back into St. Johns County, then started there. And then ultimately came over to my current role about 6 years ago. So that's just a little bit of information about me. I'm happy to answer some questions. I guess actually one other thing I would add, just sort of interesting tidbit. In January of this year, I was sworn into the U.S. Supreme Court bar, which was a really fun experience, and I'm happy to kind of elaborate on that as well. But in any event, happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Question: You're in your application, you say that your cousin's parole sergeant
Yes.
for St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, and that you would recuse yourself from any direct involvement. What about, he approves a lot of reports in that role, even if it's not just direct involvement. And do you think that a defendant coming before you would feel that you're being impartial? Because they may not understand the dynamics of a sergeant versus of somebody who's actually directly involved. So have you thought about that? And and let me say, Judge Alexander, when he was on the bench, when you would have a case with Steve Alexander and Judge Alexander, it was not a technical conflict, but he would always at the first court hearing say to everybody, hey, this is not per the rules of conflict, but if you want me to recuse myself, I would.
I would operate the same. I would operate the same. I think at any point, if I ever had to judge his credibility, I would certainly recuse myself on my own motion.
I do have a question for you. You didn't apply for the circuit court seats.
So in the past, I've applied for Worcester County for 2021, I think, and then for the circuit in I think it was 2023. I think my qualifications and my skills are transferable to either, and I would never rule out the possibility of putting in for that. But I wanted to be really intentional with where I thought I would fit best. And I really wanted to be embedded within my community in St. Johns County. And so I took that into consideration. I think at the county court level, that's a lot of people's first interaction with the court system. And I felt like I could contribute to that. I think I would have a good judicial temperament and would give a positive look at the judiciary sitting on the county court bench. And so those are all the different factors I took into consideration. That being said, I would not ever rule out the possibility of putting in potentially for the circuit position in the future. I just thought this is where I'd be the best fit.
Can you tell us the name of all the judges currently in St. Charles County?
St. Charles County. So county court was Judge Blocker, Judge Woolsey now, and Judge Christini on the county court level. Circuit court, Judge Janesk, Judge Farabee. Oh, who's up here? I'm going to forget somebody and they're going to be upset with me. This is the only thing I can remember right off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Think I'll spot that.
Oh, Judge Halls. See, I knew I was going to forget one. I'm sure I've got others. That would be important. Yeah.
Do you have a judicial philosophy? That's
I do. I think that the judiciary should exercise restraint. I think it stems, from the separation of powers. And so I think when a judge, in order to do that, looks at, and to make sure that the judge isn't legislating from the bench, that they should look at the actual text of the statute, not impose their own personal feelings or engage in any type of judicial activism. So I think they should look at the plain, ordinary meaning of that text and at the time that was written. And if I were honored with this appointment, that's how I would approach it.
looking at your trial experience, question 12, you listed 22 jury trials and 50 plus non-jury trials, but only 6 tried a verdict. So if you could maybe comment on how you have 44 non-jury trials and there's only a short verdict.
So I included any violation of probation type of hearings in that. I think the way it was worded. Initially, I think in my first application, I didn't include that, and then I had a judge come up to me and say, "You need to include all your violation of probation hearings." I was like, okay. And I reread it, and it looked like that was appropriate, so that's what I included. So the 6 are tried to verdict judge trial. Right, exactly like.
Anybody have any questions? Any questions? Have you read the Florida Code of Judicial Conduct?
I have.
How many times?
Oh gosh, I most recently read it yesterday, but I've read it at least 3 times, probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7. I've applied every time and I've signed my name saying I've read it, and I have.
So then you know which canons apply to you currently.
I do, 7, just canon 7. But although I think they're all very important for anybody putting in for this position, obviously.
If you're to be appointed, what do you want to be known as a judge?
As, I guess, somebody who has good judicial temperament, somebody who follows law, I mean, that's incredibly important. Somebody who doesn't activate or try to engage in legislation from the bench. But I think those are probably the reasons, has a lot of integrity. Those are all characteristics that I would hope to demonstrate there on the bench.
Great question. Obviously, you stayed in the criminal arena going to the IRS, but nonetheless, jumping to the IRS and the tax things, very niche type of practice in law. How's that been, and what was the drive to?
Yeah, so initially somebody had let me go to this position had become available, so that I might be good at this position because it was a criminal sort of type of position. I was a little bit, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I don't know, not me, tax, I don't really do tax, and so I've never really engaged with tax work. I've been primarily criminal. They suggested I still apply, I applied, and you know, of course, obviously got a position, and then had to get up to speed on that side of it. A lot of what I do is the criminal side of it, right? But obviously, a lot of those things involving tax evasion, there's going to be some regulations and tax-related things that come into play there. So it isn't heavy tax. I have handled a couple of tax work cases, but I've had to get up to speed, and I've had to learn that. I've had to do research. I've had to rely on mentors and that type of thing. I think as anybody kind of do jumping into something new that you haven't done in the past.
You're on more on the investigation side, not the like taking it forward side.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm on the more in-house side of that. So I don't go in the courtroom and argue the cases in front of the judge. I'm primarily assisting in the investigation and building up that investigation.
In the past, when you were certified by the commission, I see you had an interview with the governor. Can you tell us how that went and if there are any things you can do different?
Sure. But like I said, I went up twice, up in 2021 and then again in 2023, and was honored by this commission. Thank you so much. I was really humbled by that opportunity. So it's definitely a challenging experience. I mean, there is a lot of work that goes, and a lot of preparation that goes into that going up there. It's a very intellectual discussion. It's really interesting. It's a very intellectual discussion. There's a lot of high-level judicial philosophy discussion, which intrigues me. I enjoy that, and talking about Supreme Court cases and ongoing Supreme Court cases. So I would prepare in a similar manner. I prepared before going out there. I prepared in a similar manner. I think what I've done differently this time is I've tried to be very intentional before applying about expanding my network. I wanted people to know at that level what my judicial philosophy is, know a little bit about what my judicial temperament would be, how I would handle myself. And so those are, I think, the biggest thing that I've done in the time between the last time I went up and now.
Was there anything that surprised you at the committee level?
At the governor's office?
Yeah, the committee level, when you went up and talked to them.
Surprised me? Not entirely too much. I did a lot of research. So I talked to a lot of people before I went up there, and was prepared for, I think, a lot of what the fact they would be looking at, judicial act or your judicial philosophy, and sort of be prepared to talk about local Supreme Court cases, Florida Supreme Court cases, that type of thing. So I was prepared. I wasn't really surprised.
So it's going to be your closing argument. Anything you want to touch on or talk about that you didn't
Yeah.
hit, but
I guess the only thing I haven't really talked about is why I want to do this. So I have obviously been in public service my entire career. So public service is very important to me, and I really see this role as being the highest level you can go in the legal community in public service. And so that's really a big drive for me. It was always important in my family growing up. My dad is, I think was mentioned here, the sheriff's deputy in Putnam County for 28 years. He retired in that role. My mom worked for the school board. My sister is a teacher here in St. Johns County. And my brother works for the Department of Children and Families as an attorney. And my cousin is a law enforcement officer here in St. Johns County. And so it's obviously really important to our family, and so it's an important, I think for me too. And so I see this as being the highest level of that. So that would be my closing argument. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you so much.